Hi, welcome to the Women Unlimited podcast, and my guest today is Mariah Lucciano Gabriel. Mariah is the COO of OML 18 Energy Resources, MD for Uhuru Gas, Head of Integrated Gas Ventures for Sahara Upstream, and my best friend since I was 10 years old. This is something I love to brag about. So welcome to the podcast, Mariah.
Thank you very much, Arisa. Glad to be here. And just to clarify, all those 3 roles are within the same company.
She's not moonlighting.
No.
I'm so happy to have you as a guest on the podcast because when I thought about releasing Lara Unlimited, an accompanying podcast for the show, I was like, I want to talk to women who serve on boards, who are in corporate leadership, who are valuable entrepreneurs in their companies, because I feel like we see a lot of information around entrepreneurs. There's so much like for entrepreneurial women, so many tools, so many podcasts, but we don't have enough resources for women that actually incorporate. So I thought that people would benefit from hearing from real life corporate baddies who are killing it like in their industries and have risen to corporate leadership. And I've had the privilege of watching Maria's career grow since we came out of university and she moved to Nigeria.
Lots of celebrations.
It's lots of celebrations.
Some tears.
And I thought that, you know, your story was something that we should basically like tackle on the podcast. So let's start with, you work at Sahara Energy. And you've worked, that's the only company you've worked for post NYC.
16 years
16 years. You've paid your dues.
Tell me about it.
So talk to me a little bit about why Sahara and, you know, the start of your career and what is basically taken to get here.
So let's start with why Sahara. I wanted to work with Sahara for very vain reasons, by the way. I mean, then, well, I was how old? 22? Yeah, I was 22. I had done my NYSC at a bank, a Nigerian bank. And, you know, they had all this restriction with clothes. You can't wear this, you can't wear that, you can't wear this color. And I went to Sahara with the bank to market the company. At the bank, I was working at the oil and gas desk. So we were dealing with a lot of oil and gas companies. And all the oil and gas companies I had been to, there were men in suits, old men, you know. If there's a woman in the room, she's either taking notes or, you know, serving tea or coffee. There was hardly, because like I said, this is like 16 years ago. I mean, now there are women in the oil and gas industry, women killing it, women in the boardrooms and all of that. But back then, it really wasn't like that. So we went to Sahara, and the people that were across the table were mostly women. And they were in nice clothes, brightly colored clothes. In fact, I remember one was wearing an Ankara studded jacket, like with stones and everything, on a Tuesday afternoon. And I'm like, what's going on here? And they were talking, they were sounding intelligent. They didn't sound like they were just there to, you know, like sometimes they might just send the lower people to just get rid of the bankers. But no, like these were, you know, women that were high up. And I was like, I got home that day and I called my sister and I was like, have you heard of this company? She was like, no, she hasn't. I was like, okay. They seem, you know, really cool. First of all, their office is cool. They have women, nicely dressed women. I want to work there. And yeah, a couple of months later, she called me that, she saw an opening for an internship there. And that's how I stumbled. Stumbled into it, I never left.
I also remember something about getting a car. There was the points where there was a Sahara car that you really wanted.
Oh, yes.
And that was possible
to do. Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. They had the coolest, you know, those like really cool looking they look like sports cars like back then. And I used to drive that thing loud and proud, you know. It was branded, it was red, yellow, and then it had like the sports car numbers on the top. Anyway, that was like a lifetime ago. But getting into Sahara, I found that there were a lot of opportunities for you as long as you're willing to put in the work. There was no, she doesn't have enough experience, or oh, she's so and so level. In fact, back then, we never used to have designations on our cards, because you go for a meeting, you could be anybody that day. You could be the MD, you could be, as long as you're up to the task. And they would give you the opportunities. They will throw you in the deep end, with sink or swim. And they would give you the resources that you actually need to thrive. So you kind of have your destiny in your hands. And I found that was not very common with a lot of Nigerian companies back then. It was very all about the hierarchy. Oh no, you're not yet at this level, so you cannot attend certain meetings, or you're not. Just last, not 2 days ago, we were at a board meet, well, not a board meeting. We were at an NNPC. We were meeting with like the top level management, and we had to do a presentation. And the presentation was opened by one of the director's interns. So she started the presentation, and they had introduced her at the beginning of the meeting, who she was. At the end of the meeting, I think it was the CFO for NNPC. He was like, he just had to comment that, Sahara, your capacity building is amazing. Like, this sort of like important meeting, they don't know how many companies would leave it in the hands of an intern to start the presentation. She understand, and she did a fantastic job.
So would you say that like Sahara creates an environment for entrepreneurs to thrive?
So Sahara creates an environment for you to thrive in whatever. So you want to go the entrepreneurial route. Trust me, they are there for you. They will back you up with their resources. So they encourage that innovation, So you come up with an idea, nobody's going to shut you down, Nobody, even if the idea might not be, nobody's going to shut you down. They might make you like go and think through it again, but they will support you. And that's one of the things that I like about, the concept of entrepreneurship. You have that support, the financial support, Sahara is already a big company. They have the name, and the name Sahara opens doors in certain places. So those are some of like the advantages of entrepreneurship that entrepreneurs don't have. You want to start a business from scratch. You're thinking of funding. Nobody knows you. You're trying to get your name out there, trying to push your product out there. But with a company that is already well known, you already have all of that. So it makes the job a little bit easier for you, and at the same time you sort of have something to.
Okay, so what would you say? Because if someone asked me, what have you sacrificed, like, for your career? I personally would say that Sahara has a lot to pay, because she has missed birthdays, parties, a lot of celebrations. There are times where Mariah would plan a trip, whether it's a hen night or a girls' trip, and then last minute she can't attend because she has to go and handle something for Sahara. So I begrudge them that. But what kind of sacrifices would you say that you've had to make to get to this stage in your career? And what skills do you think have made you successful in your career?
Okay, so as for the sacrifices, I think that earlier on in my career, I was very, you do know this. I was very, 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 I am still very focused on my career, but basically, you put in the hard work, you put in the hours, you put in the time, you build that brand, you build that network, you build that trust in your employees to that level where they know that if I call Maria to sort this thing out, she will sort it out, And at that time, it was a lot of networking. It needed a lot of networking. It needed a lot of relationship building, and these things take time, And you're dealing in my industry, you're dealing with a lot of like regulators. And they don't necessarily treat things with the same level of urgency as a private company would, So it's like you're trying to get something out, but you have to be patient at the same time. But it's like, I don't really
like you can't do too much.
Yeah, you can't do too much, but at the same time, you have to find a subtle way of pushing these things. So at the beginning, it was a lot of grinding, a lot of being there, a lot of building that, well, for lack of a better word, trust. to the point where my name was the the answer to literally the answer to everything, you know.
So basically,
like,
you are the
there's this
fixer.
issue. Yeah. There's this issue. Okay, Mariah should be able to sort that out. Oh, you have this issue. Have you spoken to Mariah? Oh, have you? And you know, that took a lot of work. That took a lot of sacrifices, a lot of not being there for things that I wanted to be there for. So, as you know, I had my kids late. What would you call late? Exactly, late is relative. But I mean, like, so after getting married, it was like a 5-year gap due to no choice of mine. But you know, the funny thing is that 5-year gap, you know, it really gave me time to, you know, crunch in and focus on my career and build, you know, that trust. And by the time I now had my kids, there was a bit more flexibility with my work, you know. At the time, like, yes, you have to get to work at a certain time, but it's like, okay, you know what? I can't come in at this time. I can come in at so time. But nobody is like stressing you out because they know that if they give you this to do, you are going to deliver it. Whether you're in Kafanchan, whether you're nursing your baby at home, you know, it doesn't matter. The work is going to get done. But at the beginning of my career, like, I don't think that, you know, if I had my kids at that time, and I don't think I'd have been able to build that level of trust, and it would have been a harder balancing act. But because I had gotten to a point where they knew my worth, they knew what I could deliver, it was an easier balancing act.
So basically, you earned your flexibility.
I did.
And even if like the 5-year waiting to have kids could have been, you could have spent it like sad or like miserable, but I feel like you took that opportunity to double down on your career. And that speaks to, you know, like you said, it takes time to sort of build like that network and build that personal brand, because people don't realize that in a corporate setting, like, your personal brand is mostly what are your employers going to say about you? Like, what are you known for within your company? And you've gotten to a point where you're known as the fixer. Like, they know that like you will solve problems. So this also brings me to Smart Money Woman and Lara Unlimited.
Oh gosh, I can't wait for you guys to see it. Best friend privileges.
So you know what's so interesting? Like, there's this running like joke on the internet and, you know, wherever, where everyone thinks that Maria is Lara.
Even in my office, there's nothing I can say to make them
believe that you're not Lara. And it's so interesting to me because, of course, like, Maria was a huge resource for me in terms of building Lara's character, in terms of her, you know, in terms of her career, because obviously I know nothing about oil and gas. So when you hear like the conversations in her office, it's stuff that I've written, and then I have to call Maria and be like, sometimes she's on a plane and I'm like, listen, I just sent you something, as in, please read it and tell me whether it's realistic or not. And then she's like, okay, change this, add this. No, we wouldn't say it's like that. Like, that is not how, you know, the lingo is. So I feel like you helped me so much in terms of building like that part of her character, like her career outlook and all of that. But what is so mind-blowing is that there's no way that you could be Lara, because your personalities are so different. Like, your personalities are so different. So tell me, like, I feel like Lara is very hard and very aggressive. Maria couldn't be more different from Lara. Like, aside from like the oil and gas stuff, like, I feel like you're opposites in terms of the way that you would deal with things, because you're not a confrontational person.
I literally had to like work up the courage.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because when we talk about like personal branding, I also remember a time in your career where you were like, listen, I feel like I need to be more like forward facing, and we had to have a few you know, conversations about that. So do you want to talk a little bit about, you know, what your hang-ups were about, you know, building your personal brand, like within and within your organization and like also externally?
For the longest time, and I mean, it's something that I still struggle with now. It's just that I handle it better. Now. You know, I know the things to. I know, right? I know the things to tell myself to like get myself in check. Yeah. But it was a struggle. Back then, I mean, like I said, Lara, she's very confrontational. She's she speaks her mind. She says what, she's a bit aggressive. I'm the complete opposite. Sometimes back then, we could be in a meeting room now, and I have the most
amazing idea,
and I'm drafting it in my head how to say it. Okay, how do I? Okay, I'm waiting for the perfect opportunity. Do I jump in here? Okay, no, let me wait for my turn. Or maybe they will call me to speak. Or maybe. So yeah, there was actually a time that I was in a meeting and I had an idea. Because I didn't know how to say it, I told the guy that was sitting next to me, like, oh, shouldn't we do this? Like, if we did this, that should solve the problem, right? And he was like, yeah. And he actually gave me the opportunity. He was like, so say it. I was like, no. And he said it, and everybody, oh, yeah. Like, and then I'm thinking, oh, Maria, you do first. Like, so that's how bad, it was. But over time, and remember that book you...
Oh my God, do you know that actually just popped in my head now? Tell me.
Yeah, so there's this book that I said made me read. She comes, Maria,
have you watched Lean In? Have you read Lean In?
And at that time, the only Lean In I knew was
Lean In
15.
This was so funny,
yeah,
guys.
It was this diet thing.
So sorry, I have to cut you off right there. This was the most hilarious thing ever. Now, Lean In had come out, and I thought it was such a fantastic book. And I was like, Maria, you work in corporate, like this would be such a great book for you to read. Have you read it? And she was like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of this before. And I was like, how can someone not have heard of...
I said, are you talking of Lean In?
You now said Lean In 24.
Lean In 15.
Lean In 15.
Yes.
It was an exercise. Trust my friends. And I'm like, no, everyone has heard of this book. And then we called Nana. I was like, have you heard of it? And she's like, you mean Lean In 15? I was like, only my friends. Only my friends will be talking about a diet book. As opposed to like this, book that was for like women empowerment and things. And then I feel like that was the first time that we were sort of like having these conversations around how do I build, my capacity so that like I'm speaking up at meetings, I'm building my personal brand and, doing speaking engagements.
Yes. So when I read that book, I started trying to intentionally be more outspoken in meetings. In fact, I used to tell myself, Maria, you're not going to enter a meeting and not say anything.
Yeah.
And you cannot say nonsense, right? Like, you cannot just talk for talking's sake. But what I also found was that it also made me build my capacity, because if I felt like I had to speak at a meeting, then I had to say something sensible. And if I have to say something sensible, I need to know something sensible, right? So it made me work a lot more on myself, on my knowledge, because I felt like the more that I knew, the more confident I was in what I knew, the more confident I will be to, air my opinions in a public. Because when you think about it, what are you really afraid of in airing your opinions? Is you're afraid you'll sound stupid, right? So if you build that capacity, you build that knowledge base, then you don't have that nagging feeling like, oh, I hope I don't sound stupid. So that was one of the things that I had to do to, try and get out of that, funk. And then, what else would I say? Putting yourself up for speaking engagement. Yes. Oh gosh. So that was my bad. That was like trying to build my personal brand, because before then, I wasn't really familiar with the concept of a personal brand, right? For me, it was, I'm a great employee. My appraisals rock. I get good bonuses at the end of the year because my appraisal is great. What more do you want in life? I'm getting promoted within the company. So I did not really understand or feel or know the need for a personal brand. But as I read that book, as I started to, look more into what this whole personal brand was, I then realized that it's actually something, you see it all around you. You see people who have, but you just don't connect it that, that is what it is. And then, oh gosh, what's her name? Bozoman St. John.
Yes.
Yes, she was such an inspiration. So when I started looking into it, I was like, okay, so these are the sort of things that they do. These are the sort of people. And the first thing was like, okay, I need to get myself out there. I need to get myself into more speaking engagements. And I'm normally as you know, a bit, well, so not shy in personality, but in terms of like my work, I'm going to like being like so upfront and like asking, I expect to be asked to come and speak, you know. But I remember like the first time when we spoke about, oh, let's get a speaking engagement, I'm thinking like, okay, how am I going to do this? Then I had a friend, Yewande, who she used to work with, I think she still works with the Energy Institute, and they organize all these conferences and stuff. And then we're talking, and I was just like, you know, Mariah, just throw yourself out there, you know. And I was like, oh, you know what, like, I actually want to, you know, get into this, you know, I want to start speaking. I think as I was saying it, I was cringing inside, like, hey, Mariah, and she was just like, oh, okay, cool. You know, we have something coming up, blah, blah, blah. I could put you there. Okay, what topic do you want? And it was so easy. It was just like, it wasn't anything. And, you know, I was that busy dying inside. And then, of course, when that happened, I ran to you like, hey, I put myself inside problem. What am I going to say? How am I going? Oh, my gosh, I'm so nervous. Okay, you have to run. Obviously, running the script through you, even though you know nothing about oil and gas. Oh yeah, running the script through you, stuff like that really like just helped me to like build my confidence. I would never forget the advice you gave me, like, Mariah, you'll be fine. If they ask you anything that you don't know, just say, you know, it's really interesting. That's a really interesting point that you brought up. But you know what I find really interesting? They talk about what you know.
Yeah. It's true. That's my little trick for speaking engagements, because I remember, because it was always so wild to me that Mariah had worked in the same institution for so long, and I think I had gotten to a point where I was a little bit worried that you'd do all of this work, and then at the end of the day, externally, do people know how valuable you are to your company? So I felt like it was important for you to start writing articles, for you to start pitching yourself, you know, for to speak like and even if, like, it's so funny because I remember laughing at you and saying, I don't understand, you that has such a bubbly like personality, like why are you so scared like of these like speaking things? But I loved your commitment to like trying, like would go over the scripts together, like would formulate like, you know, a plan. And one of the tricks for me was like, see, you're a G when it comes to what you do, right? Nobody can ever take that away from you. So you have to own the fact that you know what you know. And if they ask you a question that you don't know, because I have this thing, if I go and speak on a panel or I go and speak at a conference or I'm giving a keynote, I start from, I think about what I want to say. What is it that I want to leave the audience with? And if a question does not like tally with that, I will make sure that I'm refocusing like the conversation to what I, you know, want to say. So, and it's been such a privilege to see you go from local stages to international stages to speak, you know, on behalf of your company, and, you know, see your industry people like actually see you. Like, she's not just a pretty girl that is only the people in Sahara that know like what is going on. Like, you've built, you know, a reputable like personal brand that I feel like your industry like recognizes. It's always such a privilege for me to like see that. Anyway, let's talk about negotiations, because I find that a lot of women, when it comes to like asking for more pay, they struggle a little bit. What are your own like tips on how to ask for more?
It's value, you know. I think you need to be able to articulate the value that you bring to the table. You need to be able to, you know, translate that to numbers. I find, even for me before, like a lot of times, when the year-end appraisal comes around, I'm struggling to remember what I've done. Because like, I don't take stock of what I've done. I don't, you know, stop to... So I'll digress a little bit. I remember once one of my colleagues, he had followed me to, this was back when I was still doing government relations. He had followed me to a meeting in Abuja, and there was an issue that we had been trying to solve. He went with me. We had a couple of meetings, saw a couple of people. It was literally a 48-hour non-stop of, you know, talking to this person, going here, talking to this person, trying to get this, trying to get that, trying to like make the impossible possible. Yeah. And then we came back to Lagos, and I had sent an email the following day saying, oh, XYZ has been sorted out, blah, blah, blah. This guy came to my office. I was like, Mariah, are you okay? He's like, what is it? He's like, that whole thing that we went through to get this done, and it's a one line of, oh, it is done. Like, nobody's going to know, like, what you do. Like, you make it sound so easy. You make it sound like, oh, what you did was nothing. And how are they going to be able to appreciate what you're bringing, what you're doing? And I was just looking at him like, they sent me to do work, I did the work. Why should I have to tell them that I went to Kafachan and then in Kafachan the tire broke down and then, you know. But unfortunately, you have to do these things. You have to be able to like articulate, because, you know, some things that maybe comes easy for you or comes naturally to you is a lot of value. But if you cannot articulate it, then they will take it for granted because you just make it seem like, you know, it's nothing. Then they will look at it like it's nothing. And if you are doing nothing, then why should they be paying you the big bucks for doing nothing, you know?
So articulate your value and document it. You know, you actually have to be able to. And articulating your value is not as easy as, you know, it's not as easy as it sounds. Well, for me, it wasn't as easy as that. And because sometimes there's this, oh, I don't want to sound braggy. Oh, I don't want to sound like, you know, I want to stay humble. I don't want to, you know, but there's a thin line between, there is sounding braggy, but there is also, this is what I did. This is what I did, you know. So you have to be able to like find that
balance, because even when you're going to your employer to ask for a pay rise, you don't want to sound braggy. You don't want to sound like, oh, without me, you're not gonna be, you're not gonna be anywhere. There's nothing, there's nothing that this company can do without me, because guess what? They can do without you. Like, let's just be honest, you know. So you do have to find that right balance when you're going to them, because you don't want to be antagonistic, but again, just be able to articulate your value, put them in numbers. And for me, I always try to get my negotiation in right after I win.
I like that.
You know, so time it. You know, I try to time it. You know, let's say there's something that my boss had put on my table. Because they put a lot of difficult tasks in front of me. You know, so they put a difficult task in front of me. Like, okay, no problem. Let me work on this thing. By the time I get this thing through the line,
when I come and ask for what I'm asking
while it's still fresh, while the happiness is still fresh, you know, we're going to talk. So timing is not when the company is going through challenges and, you know, there's one, and then that's the best time you now think you want to come and ask for a pay rise. You know, so you sort of like have to like read the company.
So you know how sometimes being bold inside a company can be seen as disruptive, especially in this sort of environment. I find, so how do you tackle that? Like, how do you tackle being innovative, and then maybe when you're seen as a superstar, like, how do you manage other people?
They're not my business. As long as my employer is happy. Well, okay, not necessarily, because you do have to work with other people. You need people, no matter like what other departments. There has to be collaboration, so you have to get along with everybody. And for some reason, again, I think it's just a personality thing. Okay. I tend to get along with a lot of people. Yes, I tend to get along with a lot of people. I think one of my key strengths is relationship building, networking, all of that sort of thing. So when it comes to like relationship building, it's not just with my external stakeholders. It's also with you know, my colleagues in the company. So when you have a decent relationship with people, they tend to be more accommodating of your of your wins, you know.
And they feel like your wins are their wins as well.
Yes, you know, so they support you.
Yeah.
They support you. But when you have that arrogance, brash, it's like, who does she think she is? It's like, yeah. So again, it's a fine balance. You can't please everybody. There will always be people that will feel that way. Like recently, because to one of my positions, the CEO role, it was a recent one, and it did cause a little bit of a stir up in the comments, like, hey, Mariah, okay, what does she know about operations? Why is she? Why
Well, as usual, you show them.
I mean, they will find out.
Which actually brings me to something. So in Lara Unlimited, there's a scene that I write where her rival at work comes in and basically like is making snide comments about the only reason that you've risen this far is based off of bottom power. And I thought that in a workplace drama, if we're really like tackling like the obstacles that women face when they're like in the workplace, there all these issues around a woman becomes successful and all of a sudden the only way that she could have been successful is if she slept her way to the top. How do you think that women should deal with those sorts of accusations? Because I think that especially when you're attractive is a difficult one to sort of like bypass, because it will kind of come up.
Like you said, it will come up, and you just have to allow your work to speak for itself. So again, it also kind of ties into the importance of that personal brand, of putting yourself out there so that people can actually see and know the work that you're doing. Your work has to speak for itself. Even when your work speaks for itself, people will still say, what they want to say. It could be, oh yeah, she's sleeping with this person, that's why. Or it could be, oh, what does she know? Why are they putting her there? So sometimes when I go into meetings, like I say, I don't really like wearing makeup. And when I don't wear makeup, I look a lot younger. And I go into some meetings and people are looking at me like, why is she in this room? Like, what is she doing? So now I make an active effort to wear makeup to make myself look a bit more senior. But people are looking at you like, what are you doing here? And they tend to underestimate you. And sometimes I use that to my advantage, because you don't think that this person here has any power or knows anything, and they let their guards down. They talk nonsense. They say what, and it's like, okay, you know what? I could play with this. I could really use this because I'm not. Again, I don't have like a big ego. Do you understand? So stoop to conquer, no problem. Like, as long as I get what I want at the end of the day. So sometimes I let it play to my advantage, but sometimes it's like you just want to put somebody in their place, just want to check a nigga. And once in a while, you should be allowed to do. You should be allowed to do so.
I love that. Can I have that iPad? I'm showing every guest a clip from Lara Unlimited and asking them to comment on it.
I might not watch the whole thing.
Okay, I wanted us to pretend, but I guess let's just go ahead in the spirit of time. So, as you have watched the scene, obviously me, I'm a writer, right? Like, and when I'm writing, I want to tackle certain societal issues, and I feel like I use Lara to say something that a lot of employees would want to voice in a way that like is extreme. I recognize that it's extreme, but I thought it was an important sort of like conversation to have. Yeah. But the issue now becomes, is this behavior that women should emulate? Do you feel like she should have used her emotional intelligence a bit more? How should somebody who finds themselves in that situation sort of like navigate?
Okay, so first of all, like you said, from the HR point of view, yeah. When I was watching it, when I was listening to the HR lady talking, it was like, like, and I'm thinking like, okay, they probably wouldn't say that, but they would think it. And so those are the things that...
Be specific. You feel like they probably wouldn't say things like, oh, he has a wife and children.
Yes,
yeah.
He has a wife and children. He has a family to take care of you. You're just a single girl. You have more money. But those are considerations. Those are factors that they do think about. But nobody would ever actually
say it in a formal meeting. So they might bicker about it behind,
and sometimes even if they don't bicker about it, it's almost like an unconscious bias. It's just like, it's just in the back of their mind. They might not even voice it out. You know, it's just there. But Lara's outburst was a bit outbursty, and especially for me. You know, for me, I'm looking at her like yeah. But no, I don't think that that was the right way to handle it, because guess what, you will be faced with disappointments at some point. Like every time, everything is not going to go your way. It's not going to go your way all the time, and you do not want to leave that sort of bad taste in your in your employer's mouth. I would say that if you are faced with that sort of situation, go away, cry your eyes out. When you're done crying, you know, you want to formalize your complaint, your objection, your reasons. Well, you know, in a very polite manner, you know, thank you for the opportunity and everything. However, I do believe that I was wrongfully passed up because of XYZ, XYZ, XYZ in a formal email that would live forever, where, you know, so you send that, document that, let them have it. If they like, they respond. If they like, they don't respond. But it's going to be there. It's going to be there on their minds, and they will think twice before they pass you up on the next occasion. And that, like I said, that outburst that she had, I think it would also like affect you negatively, because like I said, you'll be faced with difficulties, and they are looking, is that how you're going to react if something doesn't go your way? Because everything will not go your way all the time, and they would need, in a leadership position, you would need somebody who would be able to comport themselves, who would be so it's basically not a good idea. It's not a good look, but it's emotions, and Lara is crazy. So,
like you said, your own natural personality is a bit more timid, like, and non-confrontational. But I wanted a character that would sort of like go to the extreme and say things that I know that most women would not be. They're thinking, but not bold.
As she was talking, like I felt everything she said, like down to my bottom belly, like.
But you were like.
But I was like, yeah, I don't think I'd ever be able to say that, but not in that manner. But yeah, that's the kind of shit I'll come and say to you when I get home.
Like, these people. I love it. I want to switch to the investment part of this conversation. Okay. So our partners at Bamboo, they have a few, you know, asset classes that people like invest in, and we've been talking a lot about like female entrepreneurs and the fact that like you work for these companies for years, you're earning a salary, it's easy to get comfortable and not start like basically like investing for the future. So I'm going to show you 3 portfolios, and then you tell me which one is, you know, more of your personality.
So, see this S&P 500. That is I. I am she. She is me. So, but I do try to split my investments. So, but majority of my investment would be in the conservative. Portfolio. You know, standard ETFs. Like, please, because I have been burned. But I still reserve a smaller portion of my incomes for
to take more aggressive
positions, because I'm still a dreamer. I like to believe that I want to, maybe this thing will just strike, just give me 100x, you know. But again, it's a small percentage of
You find that like you're mostly conservative, but then you still allocate a small.
I have a long-term view towards investing. It's just like, you know what, and again, my time. I don't have the time to be like watching the market, because if you're taking all these more aggressive positions, you have to know when to pull out. You have to know when to. And I don't have time to be doing all that. I'm busy in the office. That's how maybe I should have taken the stock out yesterday. I should have sold yesterday. But I was in one meeting in Abuja, and then I come back today, and the thing has crashed. Like,
Which is perfect because Bamboo is also starting this new thing about managed portfolios. So, normally it's an app, you have to do everything yourself. Now they have this option where you get to talk to investment managers about what you're investing in, especially for women like you. I'm actually trying to get them to do like a special offer for our Women Unlimited community where they get a 20% discount off fees.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. I'm also thinking about maybe like getting them to pay for some kind of holiday, like if we do like a competition. And I know you're very competitive. So get like each woman to basically like be Team Maria, Team Dukbe, Team Osai, like, and maybe people follow like the portfolios that you do. And at the end of a period, you get some kind of prize for the highest assets under management. We're still working it out, but I think it should be interesting. Yeah. So Maria, to finalize, tell me what you think makes you unlimited as a woman. Because for me, the whole point of this concept of being a woman that's unlimited is that who are we when we're not limited by fears, not limited by our own self-doubts, not limited by our own shortcomings or the obstacles that we face along the way. So what would you say makes you unlimited?
That would be my endless optimism. I'm a believer, yeah. I believe that you can do anything. You can, anything that you want. A lot of it just takes planning. A lot of it just takes that dedication, that sacrifice that you need to, but literally whatever you want, you can do it. And once you have that mindset, a friend of mine some years ago, she was moving, I think she was moving from Lekki, and she wanted a place in Ikoyi, and she called me, she was like, Mariah, the place I saw it, the price, but this is my dream. I'm like, get it now. She was like, no, I don't want to. I'm like, see, at the end of the day, the hustle that you're going to hustle for Lekki is the same hustle. Yeah, you just need to double the hustle. Yeah. Do you understand? Like, if your bills are 10 million, you are going to be thinking of how can I get 10 million. If your bills are 20 million, you're going to be thinking of how can I get 20 million, and you will get it. Yeah. And she took the apartment, and every year she always said, Mariah, you know that thing you said to me has never left my mind. She was like, the day that she moved it, she just started thinking, okay, how am I going to get? And basically off that, she started like two businesses from her house there, and paying the rent was never a problem. For me, like, I just feel like it's mindset, it's planning. Like now, we talk about like, how high the school fees in the UK is, and I was just like, that's everybody's business. Because me, I know where my children are going, and from when they turned one, we started, making provision for these things. Because if you wake up today and you're looking for £100,000 to pay school fee, of course you're going to go mad. You understand? Like, again, so it's just knowing what you want, planning, making the sacrifice, but because nothing you want is going to come without a sacrifice. So you just have to have that at the back of your mind, and you can be unlimited. Anything you want.
My best friend, guys. Thank you. So thank you so much. I feel like the lessons that will be learned from this interview will be invaluable. Like, you gave a lot of real life experiences and gems. My best friend, ladies and gentlemen.
You're welcome, my darling.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.